So we're at the Anson today, and it's a lovely sunny day, and we're in front of this ex-army 4LW, correct?
That's right.
And in front of me, we have Mr. Imrie. Right, Mr. Imrie, tell us a bit about you now. What year was you born?
1939.
Just before the war started? Or...
Yeah, I think I was the cause of the war being started.
Oh dear. Right, so you went to school till you was what age?
15.
15. Any qualifications or just...
Well, if you wanted to be a tradesman, you'd have a job as an apprentice by the time you was 16. So the only certificate at that time you could get was what they called the lower leaving certificate. If you wanted the other things was hires, but you had to stay at the school till you were 18.
Right.
So you then couldn't serve your time as a tradesman.
And you wanted to become a
I
tradesman?
didn't want to sit in an office and be a shiny pen pusher.
Right, so you left school at 16?
15.
15, and then what did you do then for the...
Well, I then started to serve my apprenticeship, although I was there for till I was 16.
Right.
And then my apprenticeship started when I was 16.
So where did you serve your apprenticeship?
The Shields Motor Car Company, Dunkeld Road, Perth.
And these were just cars?
No, I worked in the commercial vehicle workshop.
Right.
But one of the odd things was where Shields was, there was pretty high-end houses, and there was a lot of people who had Daimler Conquests and Rolls Royces.
Oh.
And they had what they call the Austin shear lines. They were A125. You've heard the A40s and things, but
Yeah.
the top car, and it had the same six-cylinder engine as the petrol lorry had.
Right.
Now we got them to repair in the workshop because the cylinder heads was too heavy for the puny car mechanics. I mean, the Daimler Conquest had a cylinder head that was over 3 feet long.
So you was part of the heavy brigade, was you,
Yes,
basically?
that's right. So we repaired Daimlers and Rolls Royces
Oh.
and these big Austins because the car boys couldn't lift the cylinder heads.
So you was working on lorries at the same time?
Yeah.
Is this where you got your interest in, as you can see, Gardner?
Well, what you discovered was that when I started to serve my apprentice, the first place I worked in was the fuel pump shop where we repaired and overhauled fuel pumps and injectors. And it was one of these places, it was a big place, and they did all the trades in the motor trade. We painters, panel beaters, welders.
A proper garage?
Yes, electricians, a trimmer that did the seats. We did everything that was done in the trade. We had a machine shop, so you had a while in the machine shop and you got taught about using.
You learned a trade.
Yeah, that's right, but your main thing, and what I discovered was that we're agents for Perkins, we were sign holders for Perkins. That was the top agency, you were a sign holder. We also were agents for Seddon and Dodge lorries, but there was a lot of Fodens and ERFs and guys came in with Gardner engines. There was a lot of AECs. The common engine at that time was 7.7 litre AECs. There was Leyland 600s. There was some of the old 8.6 litre overhead cams, the first diesel engines that Leyland made. And you found that they were getting repaired an awful lot oftener than the Gardners.
Right.
And
not quite as reliable as the Gardner, basically.
Oh, they weren't as reliable, and they were all greedier. They all burnt more fuel. Gardner was always running fresh air compared to other folk.
So how long did you stop at this garage?
Well, till my time was out, and I fell out with one of it was a place that had every department had a foreman. The commercial workshop, but there was a head foreman who wore a white coat, and he was actually very, you can generally speaking, you will say, oh, he doesn't know what you're speaking about. That's what the normal boys normally say.
Can you remember his name?
Aye, Davy Loonan. And I always got on very well with him.
Right.
But a lot of people did. But if there was something giving trouble and nobody was getting to the bottom of it, along would come Davy Loonan and look at it and say, have you done so and so? Well, do that then. All right, that was the thing running, you see. He definitely knew his business, and I got on quite well with him. He used to, something special, come on. He always called me Joke. He didn't like Alan.
Oh.
I was joking, but come on, Joke, I want you to come and say, look at this. And I actually gave him a hand to do some work on an old car that he bought for himself.
So you was like his favourite then?
I wouldn't have said it was his favourite. No, I wouldn't have called. There was other boys that he was more of a favourite than I was. But I used to, and if you went to him about something, he could always tell you what needed to be done. But I fell out with this foreman, and I went to work with Allison's. At that time, it was Allison's Transport, and the foreman there, I couldn't get on with him. I had enough a job with me.
There was slight clashes of personality, was there?
Regularly.
So when you went working for Alice, what sort of lorries did they have?
Well, Allison, when I went to Allison's first, they had just replaced what they called the new fleet were all AECs, AEC Mercury's and AEC Mammoth Majors. But Allison was a firm that bought over ailing firms, and they used to have a broad mixture of.
Oh, so they used to end up with all sorts of stuff then.
Right.
So did they have many gardeners in their fleet?
Oh, aye, yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of gardeners in the old fleet, and one of the things we did do, well, I wasn't involved in the doing of it, but Allison put a BSA turbocharger on a 6LW.
Oh.
And the boy that got it liked it, but the bottom end was strong enough, it run big ends.
Right.
So it was eventually...
it was a good idea, but a bit too early, and it's...
Well, I suggested, why don't you get the crankshaft? He said, Gardner crankshafts unhardened. I don't know about the last of them, but the LW and LX crankshafts weren't hardened. But that's not to say they weren't quite hard, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
And I said, how do you not get the crankshaft nitrid hardened? The Leyland engines were all hardened nitrid and were very hard. And I says, I'm sure the bearing manufacturers would make lead bronze bearings. He says, I've went into that, Alan, but he says it's far too expensive, so the project, the turbochargers and the Gardners was dropped.
So how long did you stay there?
Well, I didn't stay long there the first time, and I floated the boat for different haulage contractors. I worked in a quarry at one time, repairing plant and machinery in a quarry, and then I went to a building firm, and I was with a building for a couple of years.
Was this all round Arbroath?
Well, but no, I didn't come for Arbroath, you see. I stayed in the Carsagowrie near Perth.
Right.
But these places was nearly all, well, the quarry was in Perth. And then I worked with this building firm, and I left there to go permanent night shift on Allison's, and I was there until they went out of business.
Then what happened? Where did you go after that?
I then went to I was staying in Kirriemuir. My wife come from Kirriemuir, and when we got married, we got a new house in Kirriemuir. We got a house in Kirriemuir, and there was a firm there, a big oatmeal porridge oats manufacturer called the Angus Milling Company, and they'd bought they bought two private garages when they changed all the legislation about maintenance of motors or goods vehicles, and there was one of them called Barn, King and Loudon. That was the three partners, and there was another garage called James Fern. They bought the two of them, and it was BKLF, Barn, King, Loudon and Fern division of the Angus Milling Company. And I stayed there for 5 years or thereby, and then I got headhunted to go and be the transport manager when they formed Angus District Council, when they reorganised local authorities in 1975, and that's who I moved to Arbroath.
Right. So how long did you stop with the council?
Oh, well, I went there in 1975 and left in 2004.
Is that when you retired?
That's when I retired.
But since then, you've still kept your hand in a little, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been. I still do a bit yet.
Yeah.
I changed brake. I organised 2 fish companies, van maintenance.
Right.
And I've always put in brake pads.
So you're still meddling even at...
Oh, still meddling at 80.
Now you're in your late 60s.
Aye, that's right. Yeah.
You're very late 60s. And you come down to the Anson this weekend because on Sunday it's the
Gardner Engine Forum AGM.
And you're going to ask a few questions, aren't you?
Well, that's what I said to wind up John Naylor. I'm not going to ask any questions at
No.
all.
Anyhow, thank you very much, Alan. It's nice to see you yet again. And
Of course, I'll be back at the closing weekend.
yeah, and as you can see, he's next to one of his favourites, a Gardner.
That's right.
Right, we've called it a day now.
Well,
Thank
one
you.
other thing I would say,
Oh, there's more.
they speak about how different engines compare. But you can only compare two engines if they're doing the same job.
Yep. Sat on an underbase driving an alternator,
Aye.
it's a lot different than sat in a lorry, load on, load
That's
off.
right.
Yeah.
But when I worked with Allison's, we got a contract to drive steel strip to other car body makers in England. And they were doing 2 trips a week down to Glasgow, to the Midlands and wherever they were making the bodies, get a return load.
Was this pre-M6 days or?
Oh no, this would, well, that would be up to 1970 that was happening.
Right.
Well, but prior to that, and we had a lot of lorries on this contract, but we bought these 5 Volvos. Now they were beautiful things to drive, and they went quite well. They turbocharged engines. But what we did discover was that after 100,000 miles, there's no air pressure.
Oh.
See, so that they get an engine overhaul at 100,000 miles. And somebody says, and what about the Gardners? Well, it says we were adjusting the tappets on the Gardners at 100,000 miles.
Yes. And for a modern lorry, 100,000 miles isn't a lot these days, is
No.
it? It's nothing.
No, they were doing the 100,000 miles in a little less than 2 years.
Well, they cost money when they're not moving, don't they?
Well, that's right.
Anyhow, thank you very much, Alan. And I'm sure people enjoy this little ad hoc interview. And you didn't swear once. You did very well there.
That's right.
Right. Thank you, Alan.